Hey, welcome back to another episode of the She's Making an Impact podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Ngom. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited for you to hear today's interview. So I first listened to Rachel Richards' book, Passive Income Aggressive Retirement. And I listened to it and I sent her a message on Instagram. I was like, this is amazing. Can I get you on the podcast? And she said yes. So here she is. Rachel retired at 27. She's now living off of, she said, $20,000 per month in passive income. She is crushing it. She's been featured on Penny Hoarder, New York Times, contracted to speak at colleges. So today, we're talking about how you can retire early, how you can create more passive income streams. We talk about how she got started in real estate. We also talk about money mindset and how that can impact everything. So we're going to dive in. I had so much fun with this. So you get to listen to the two Rachels today. Hey, Rachel, great name. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited. Thank you.
Yes. So let's start off. Tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Absolutely. So I am a lot of things. I'm a former financial advisor, bestselling author, a real estate investor, and I built a portfolio of 38 doors by the time I was 26.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So people hear that and they assume some things. So I always like to get those out of the way. So first of all, I'm not a trust fund baby, and I never made six figures from a job or a career. So I was very frugal starting out. When I graduated from college, I started off making $36,000, and then I made $32,000 and then $42,000. So by no means did I have this huge six-figure income advantage. But that's what I did. I was able to get to $10,000 a month in passive income by 27. And that is when I quit my job and became financially independent.
Well, that's awesome. Okay. How'd you get started with such low income? What did that look like?
I got started, really my journey to building passive income began in 2017. So that year, my husband and I purchased our first rental property. It was a duplex in Louisville, Kentucky, and it cost $100,000. So a lot of people are like, well, where did the money for the down payment come from?
Mhm.
So we had a few things going for us. First of all, we both graduated from college without debt. Now, my parents were unable to help me pay for school. So I sold Cutco cutlery. Have you heard of Cutco knives by
Yes, I
any
have.
chance? Okay.
Yep.
So I paid my way through school selling knives, much to my mother's dismay, but that is what I did.
You made it happen.
I did, yes. So I graduated debt free, and my husband is a military veteran, so he used his military benefits to pay for his school. So we graduated debt free. That was obviously a big advantage because we didn't have these enormous student loan payments coming out of our paychecks. So even when I was making 36 grand before I even met my husband, I was saving half of my income and living off $1,500 a month.
Wow.
That was my budget in Louisville, Kentucky, which that was another thing we had going for us. We lived in Louisville, Kentucky. That's an affordable place to live. It's a lower cost of living. Housing is more affordable. That initial duplex we bought was $100,000.
Wow.
And so some people in California are listening to this thinking, I can't even get a parking spot for $100K.
Seriously, yeah.
But it's great to find affordable markets to invest in.
Yeah.
So that was very, very helpful. And then just being frugal. That was a big sacrifice. I had to give up a lot, but I was just focused on the future and just trying to delay gratification. And there's definitely a lot I would have done differently going back, because it was very restrictive and very intense for a few years. And I just didn't know some things I could have done differently. But at the end of the day, I'm, no regrets. It all paid off, and I'm very happy with the lifestyle I now have.
Yeah. What would you have done differently, if anything?
Well, so there's two ways to increase your savings rate, right? And when I ask in workshops and I ask people, if you're trying to save up money quickly, what sorts of things do you do? A lot of the times people will say, I'll eat out less. I will cook at home more. I'll stop online shopping. I'll cut back. And I realized over time that what all of our responses have in common is that we're focused on this common theme of decreasing our expenses, right? That's what we go to first. And that's what my mindset was at the time. And that's really important. That's a crucial part of the strategy because you have to live within your means.
Right.
But that is crucial. It's just that there's only so much you can do to decrease your expenses. You can't stop paying your mortgage. You can't stop paying your heating bill in the middle of winter. And when I was living on a $36,000 salary, it was very limited how much I could cut back. So that's a limited mindset that can sort of result in a scarcity mindset. It can feel very restrictive when you're budgeting that way.
Yeah.
So there are two ways to increase your savings. Number one is decrease your expenses. And number two is increase your income. And for whatever reason, I just never thought about that a couple of years ago and when I was first doing this. But the beautiful thing about increasing your income is there's no cap on how much money you can make. There's nothing stopping you from making more money. And the best part is you don't have to reduce your quality of life to do so.
Yep.
So back then, if I was trying to make 400 extra bucks, I was looking for ways to cut back in my budget. Where can I cut back by 400 bucks? Instead, I could have increased my income by $400 and have the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the thing that I would have done differently. And it would have helped me not live so in such a restricted way. And I think I wouldn't have gotten so burnt out. So yeah, that's what I would have done differently.
Cool. Did your parents teach you financial education, or like what got you interested in, saving and living on less? Because I feel like this is something nobody learns, and
Oh
people
my gosh.
don't it, like, it's ridiculous. I'm so happy you're doing what you're doing, because like we need financial education desperately. So where did you start?
Yeah, my parents did not teach me. I grew up seeing them living paycheck to paycheck. And I grew up in this very wealthy bubble in Kentucky. It was a very unrealistic bubble to grow up in. For context, there were kids in my high school that got brand new BMWs when they turned 16. Yeah. My family was not operating that way.
Yeah.
We were not going on family vacations, let alone even going out to restaurants. So it was paycheck to paycheck. I saw them struggling with finances. What I learned from them was more what not to do. And it was a lot of stress in the family. Money was a stressor for us. And that's what I learned. That's what I grew up with, was that money caused fear, money caused stress. And I remember that I didn't want to grow up that way. And I was starting to read these books in high school. And in middle school, even. I remember I read this book called The Motley Fool's Guide for Teens, How to Have More Money Than Your Parents Ever Dreamed of. And I was like, ooh, that sounds fun. And I was at summer camp in 6th grade, and I was reading this book by the pool instead of going down the water slides with my friends. So yeah, I've been a finance nerd my whole life. I'm proud of it, but that's where I kind of got started. And I had this moment in high school where I realized I didn't want to grow up and be like everyone else struggling with money. I wanted to be different. I didn't want to operate on a strict budget for the rest of my life. I didn't want to have to borrow money from family and friends to make it to my next paycheck. I wanted to be different. And I realized that what I did then would either set me up for wealth or for poverty. So I started taking action. I started reading everything I could, and I started figuring out a way early on that I could build wealth and achieve financial independence and escape the rat race.
Amazing. So was your first thing that you started with in real estate? That was like your very first investment, passive income deal?
Yes, that was the first passive income stream. I later self-published my first book, Money Honey, in 2017. So royalty income was the second passive income stream.
Okay. If we're looking to get started in real estate, how do you suggest we start? Because there's like so much information and it's ridiculous. How do you find a good deal? And is now even a time to look at real estate?
Okay. Yes, this is my favorite topic. So there's a lot of information and a lot of strategies out there. So I get how it can feel incredibly overwhelming. The first thing I would look at is, do you have more time or more money? Because that will sort of inform which strategy to use. Now, I held myself back from starting to invest in real estate because I thought you had to have tens of thousands of dollars to do it. I just thought it was a thing that only people with money could do. And so I waited until I saved 10 grand. I could have gotten started at age 18 with nothing if I knew then what I know now. So there are strategies like wholesaling and the BRRRR method and house hacking and owner financing and finding a silent partner, all of which either require very little money or no money to get started with real estate investing. So I would look those up. I started when I was 24, which is still very good. You know, that's still a very early age, but I literally could have started 5 or 6 years sooner if I knew about those strategies.
Yeah.
So don't let the lack of capital hold you back from getting started. And then the second part of your question, is now a good time to invest in real estate? I love this question because it feels very scary, right? The market is crazy. It's volatile. It feels impossible to even get a good property because you make an offer and then you're outbid by 100 other people that are offering 100K over asking. So it's like, how do you even find something? So first of all, I think this is a great market to invest in because of a few things. I get asked, is this a bubble? What's going on with the housing market? And I don't know. I wish I had a crystal ball. I can't predict the future. And anyone that is saying one way or another, that's a speculation. But if you look at the number of houses that were being built by decade over the last few decades, what happened from 2010 to 2020 is alarming. And the number of houses dropped by like 50% that were being built. So it seems like a big supply demand problem. There were not enough houses being built in the last decade, and now that's coming back to bite us. So there's this huge housing shortage that cannot keep up with the growing demand. That, in my opinion, could take years and years and years to correct. So it's not a bubble, it's a supply demand problem, in my opinion. I'm not an economist, but that's what I would say. The other thing is inflation. I think the latest report is that it was 7.5 or 8%. It's
crazy,
out of control.
Yeah.
And one of the best places to keep your money during times of inflation is in real estate and in land. So that's another reason I love that so much of my portfolio is in real estate right now.
For sure. When we saw inflation keep going up, we found a property here in Orlando that went on the market with 5 acres. It's an equestrian property, and we jumped on it. We made like full asking price offer same day. Even though other investors bid on it, it was like meant to be. We got the deal. And I'm like, yes, we're not going to lose out 8% to inflation now. Like, we have a place to store our cash.
Yeah, it's a great place to keep your money. It's a great hedge. And I do think great deals can be found. The problem is most people are looking on the MLS, the multiple listing service. That's where everyone is going to find deals. The problem is it's too competitive, it's too saturated. And if you want to find deals, you have to do two things. Get off the MLS, look for off-market deals, look for creative ways to find deals that are off-market.
Where do we find off-market deals?
There's a lot of strategies. So there's things you can kind of Google these things, but there's strategies like putting up bandit signs, driving for dollars, probate leads, short sale leads, pre-foreclosure leads, networking. So there's a lot of ways to find off-market deals. Those are some of them. And then another thing is be willing to invest out of state. Because if you're in a place like California or Washington, D.C., or Austin, Texas, or Denver, Colorado, these are really, really expensive markets and people are moving to these places. So that makes it even harder. Yeah. So be willing to invest out of state where not only it's more affordable, but it's less competitive. So you have to just be willing to do what others are not if you want to find a good deal right now.
Cool. How do you build a portfolio to the size that you have right now? So you started off with a duplex, and then what was the next step?
Yeah, we scaled super quickly, and there were 3 reasons we were able to go from 0 to 38, and it was like 2.5 years. First of all, we continued to live frugally, so we didn't give into lifestyle creep. That first duplex took us 9 months to find, and it was one of the most discouraging 9-month periods of my life because even in 2017, it's discouraging. It's a hard process. We put in multiple offers on properties. We had an accepted contract on a property that fell through. We wanted to give up. We were like, maybe we're not cut out for this, blah, blah, blah. But we kept going. We finally got this duplex. It was cash flowing $500 per month. We'd been living frugally for years, not giving into stuff. All of our friends had these amazing lifestyles. And so we now had this cash flow of $500 a month. It would have been so easy for us to say, okay, we can finally go get a new car. We can upgrade our life or our house and live a little bit. But instead we were like, okay, no, we're going to stay disciplined. We're going to stay strict, and we're going to save 100% of this cash flow to reinvest and to put towards the down payment of the next property. So that's one thing that helped, is just not giving into lifestyle creep. and staying disciplined like that. We were also still
That's
saving.
huge. That's huge. Like
Yeah.
it's so easy to be tempted. Like my husband and I, we still drive a car that we bought in cash for $8,500. Like, and we our other cars from 2007.
Yeah.
It's like, could we afford to get a nicer car? Yeah. But we're also like, how can we invest more? How could we like really set ourselves up for success down the road? So I think that's such an important point. And it's so like, it's definitely tempting, especially the neighborhood. Like we see, even TJ's like, why don't we have a Tesla, my 9-year-old son? Because that's what he sees all of his friends, like their parents are driving Teslas and nice cars. And I'm like, buddy, how much money does that cost? Like does this car work? Does it drive? Does it have air conditioning? I'm like, that's all we need. Like we're good. And you can save up and buy a Tesla when you want.
Exactly. I try to prioritize function over anything. If it
Yeah.
gets me from point A to point B, it's fine.
Yep.
As long as it's not causing inconvenience, because that's
Just has to
something
have
that
air conditioning. That's
AC
my
is a
only
must.
in Florida. Yeah, I'm like, that's the only thing I need. We drove a car when we were in France and the AC broke and then the windows broke. So I couldn't even roll down the windows.
Oh my
Oh
gosh.
my gosh. There was one day when I drove from like the city to our house. When I got to the house, I was like, I was so hot. I was in such a bad mood. My husband's like, I won't talk to you when you're hungry and when you're overheated or tired.
Yeah,
Yeah.
angry. That's hilarious.
Yep.
So yeah,
Lifestyle creep. And then
it's hard.
second
It's easier
property.
said than done. Yeah, lifestyle creep. And we were still saving 50% of our income. The other thing is, and this was really the key, is that I had my real estate license.
Mm-hmm.
So I had my realtor license. It was never for the purpose of having my own clients. I wasn't helping people buy and sell houses, but it was only for my own purposes as an investor.
Okay.
So every time we bought a property, we would deplete our savings, but I knew I would get a commission check back for thousands of dollars. That first property, I think I got a couple $1,000. On later properties that cost more money, I would sometimes make $10,000 or $11,000.
How does that work? Like you're buying the property through yourself?
Yeah. So I represent myself as the buyer's agent on the deal.
You can do that?
Yes.
Shut
You have
up.
to disclose it. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. I
Yeah.
just learned
So
something. That's cool.
I know it's amazing. So basically, because the seller is paying all of the realtor commissions. And so a lot of people don't realize that. In
Right.
any transaction, the seller pays both the list agent and the buyer's agent.
Okay.
So the seller is now paying me, the buyer, like the buyer's agent,
Right.
to transact this property because I'm representing myself as the buyer's agent.
Okay. That's cool.
I know. Yeah. So because I'm a realtor, so now I can make, $2, $5, $10, $15,000 if I'm buying the property myself.
Hmm.
So we were able to save big chunks of money and put those towards the down payments of the next property that we wanted to buy as well. And that was a big key for us to be able to scale quickly during that period of time.
Amazing. What are your thoughts on debt? Because obviously to do this, you put down a down payment and then you have a lot of mortgage debt. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
I am currently, this sounds really alarming. I am currently over $1 million in debt. And that is because of the mortgages on all of my rentals.
Okay.
I don't have any other debt outside of that. I don't have student loan debt. I don't have car loans. I don't have credit cards. I don't have any other debt. But I have over $1 million on all the mortgages on all my properties, which that's very scary to say out loud. But I love that debt because of what it does for me. Dave Ramsey says debt is bad or debt is dumb or whatever he says.
Right.
I completely disagree with that. There's debt that is a big obstacle to achieving financial freedom. Consumer debt is a big obstacle. Credit card debt, where you're paying 20% interest on items that don't give you any type of return, that is a big obstacle. And that's the type of debt that I would suggest you pay down as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you're getting debt on an asset that is appreciating or that is cash flowing, that is something, in my opinion, that's very, very smart.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would not be where I am today if I did not take out the debt on all these properties. And now my passive income streams, including not just the real estate, but everything, have grown to $20,000 a month.
Wow.
And I'm financially independent. So think about it this way. If you look at $100,000 house, you could either in cash buy $100,000 house. Or if you have 100 grand, you can go buy 5 different houses by putting down $20,000 on 5 different houses.
Mm-hmm.
So debt allows your money to go so much further for you and work so much harder for you. So I think in that specific scenario, that's what wealthy people do.
Right.
I don't know personally a single wealthy person that hasn't used debt to their advantage.
Do you ever get nervous of like, what if somebody doesn't pay their rent or whatever? Or
No, and that's a good question. And I do get asked that a lot. And here's the thing, I don't ever invest in real estate for appreciation. I invest for cash flow. And I think that's
can
the
you
safe.
explain the difference for our listeners?
Absolutely. So a lot of investors right now, because the market is going up so much, are investing for appreciation, meaning they see a house that's $300,000 and they figure if they buy it, then in a year or two, they can sell it for $400,000 because the market's going up and the house they're hoping is going to go up in value and they'll make 100K. I think that's speculative. And I think that a lot of people got in trouble for the same thing in 2007 when the market was going up super fast, but then it tanked. So if you invest for appreciation, you're risking that, well, what if it doesn't go up? What if it goes down instead? And then you lose money. Now, if you invest for cash flow, you're investing in a rental property because you're investing so that the rental income covers the mortgage payment and all of the expenses. And you're netting out a profit each month, a cash flow each month. So that's profit that you can count on. You're not necessarily investing for the hopes that the property will increase in value.
Right.
So it's nice if it happens and it's a bonus if it happens. I just never account for that. If you invest for cash flow, then even if the value of the property goes down, the cash flow will still likely be there. And I always do like a break-even analysis of, okay, how much would I have to lower the rent if the economy goes down or the rents go down? And I'll look at it and sometimes I'm like, okay, I have $200 of buffer room. I have $250 a month in buffer room where I could still lower rents by $200 a month and I could still break even on this property. And that's a lot of buffer room.
Right.
So if that's my worst case scenario, I feel pretty conservative and confident that I can get by. I've managed vacancies really well, evictions really well, and overall, there's little losses here and there, but you take that into account when you run the financials, and overall the properties are profitable.
Got it. How much cash flow are you looking to do each month?
When we had 38 doors, because we did sell some of our properties last year, we had $10,000 a month in profit from our rentals.
Okay. How much are you looking like each unit? So when you're analyzing a property to buy it?
So my goal was always to get $200 per unit per month in profit.
Okay.
Now, a lot of investors aim for $100 per unit or per door per month. And I think that's really solid. As long as you're being conservative, you're really taking into account all the potential expenses, everything, $100 for sure, but no less than that is what I would recommend.
Okay. And did you manage all the properties yourself or did you have a property manager?
We self-managed for a long time. Yeah. But this is a fabulous, awful story that I can share. So keep in mind that when we were building this rental portfolio, my husband and I were still working full time this entire time. So we were working 40 to 50 hours a week. We were acquiring real estate and managing our tenants on the weekends. And I was writing my books in the evenings.
Wow.
So by the time we got to 26 units or 26 tenants, we were like, yeah, we need to stop self-managing. We need to hire a property manager.
Yeah.
And this was our first really big mistake with real estate investing where we lost money, because this is my fault, because I can sometimes be too cheap. And this is a mistake that I still make to this day, that I still try to learn from.
My husband's the same way. And I'm the one that's like, we can splurge a little bit here, but he balances me out because otherwise I'd spend all of our money.
Yeah. My husband balances me out in the opposite way because I'm the cheap one. And then he's like, can we spend a little bit more? And I'm like, okay, fine.
It's great to have one of each,
Yeah, totally. Yeah. But being too cheap can cost you money in the long run. And that was what happened, because I was like, man, if we hire one of these big property management companies, they're going to take such a big portion of the rent. And in the meantime, we had this couple working for us, a husband and wife, and they were doing some maintenance, some lawn care. They were interacting with our tenants. They were the hardest working couple I had ever met. They went above and beyond. They were reliable. So I was like, what if we make them employees of our company and we make them the property managers? And that way we can save some money and be a little more hands-on with the way that we manage them to manage our properties. I was like, it's going to be a win-win, right? It was not. It was a win-lose, FYI. So
Uh-oh.
yeah, it started off great. About 6 months in, things went south. So my husband showed up to collect the rent from the on-site lock boxes one weekend, and he noticed there was a significant amount of rent missing. It wasn't just a tenant or two paying late. It was a lot of money.
Uh-oh.
So we came to find out they had stolen $6,000 in rent income, and they had been squatting in vacant rooms and units in our properties for over a year.
Oh,
Yeah. So it was just such a violation of trust, such
yeah.
a crazy thing. They fled the state. They took the money and left. And to this day, we never found them. But it was so awful. I wanted to quit. I was like, why are we even doing this? And I thought that for a couple days, and then I got over it.
Yeah.
But the moral of the story is that this is not the place to cut corners. You have to hire professionals and you have to spend money on them.
Yeah.
That comes to CPAs, lawyers, property managers, contractors, whoever it may be. Don't go with the cheapest solution. That's not the way to hire people.
Right.
Because if we had hired a reputable property management company that was insured and licensed, and one of their employees had done that to us, they would have been liable for the damages, not us.
Yep.
So it was painful, and it's almost embarrassing to admit that, because in hindsight, it seems so obvious and naive, but I share that in the hopes that others will learn from my mistake.
For sure. And I think it's one of those things, like we do silly things. We make but as long as we learn going forward, it's like, okay, I won't do that again.
Definitely won't be doing that again. I look at it as my $6,000 tuition payment. That's the price that I paid to learn that lesson, and whatever, it's worth it. I won't make it again. And hopefully I prevented a lot of other people from making that mistake as well.
For sure. Okay. So you got started in real estate, and then you published a book, you self-published a book. And so that's bringing in passive income. What other income streams do you have?
I have a lot. I have a print on demand income stream.
Okay.
So that's where, instead of having a physical store, you can have an online store. You upload designs onto physical products, but you're not responsible for the fulfillment or the shipping of them.
Such a smart way to do it. So then you don't have all this inventory in your house. And oh my gosh.
It reduces all that inconvenience and work, but it also reduces the financial risk of having inventory.
Yep.
Because then you're not on the line if you buy all these products and they don't sell.
Yep.
You only get paid if something sells.
Yep.
So it's really brilliant. So we have the print on demand. I have online courses now, some of which are passive, some of which are active, and those are great. I have Funderize, which is another type of real estate investment, interest, dividends, maybe affiliate income. There might be a couple other things, but that's most of it.
Cool. What are some of your best tips for retiring early?
Oh, I have a lot of tips, but it's, to me, the best path to retiring early is passive income. There's two ways to retire early. One is to build up this huge nest egg quickly and then live off of it. And one is to create passive income streams. And I talk about the nest egg theory, and I think it's really hard and almost impossible to build up this nest egg. It's almost impossible to build up a nest egg by age 65, let alone by age 35.
Right.
There are studies that show that millennials will need to accumulate $2 million by age 65 in order to retire. And I don't know about you, but that is a lot of money like that. I don't know many multimillionaires. Okay. I don't even know if I know a single one. So the idea of saving $2 million is very daunting to me. That's very overwhelming to me. And even trying to do that by 65, let alone within a few years, that just feels impossible.
Yeah.
So I don't like that theory. I think it's a lot more attainable to create $5,000 or $6,000 or $8,000 a month in passive income. The epiphany I had is that once your passive income exceeds your living expenses, you're retired, you're financially independent. So I think the first step for building passive income, it's kind of the first step for investing in real estate, is figuring out, do you have more time or money to put towards creating a passive income stream? Passive income is no get rich quick scheme. It does take time or money to create. So I want to emphasize that, because upfront, there's nothing passive about it. You have to put time into it. You have to put money into it. Then later, once you launch it or get it going, that's when it becomes passive.
Yep.
So if you have more time, for example, than money, look into creating a royalty income stream. Look into writing a book or doing a print on demand store or launching an online course. If you have more money than time, look into creating portfolio income, like investing in the stock market or putting 20% down on a rental property. So if you figure that out, you can narrow down some of your different options.
Got it. How has mindset come into play for you as, it relates to finances? Because I know like money
Oh,
mindset is such a loaded topic.
it's everything.
Yeah.
It's everything. I mean, I mentioned it a little bit, but earlier on in my journey, I was very much operating out of a scarcity mindset, and that held me back a lot, and it still holds me back. When I was young, I was driven a lot by fear, and fear can be very motivating or very paralyzing. Luckily for me in my journey, it's been motivating for me. But there's always this sense of insecurity. And as much as I like to think I've overcome that, I sometimes wonder if I'm still operating out of fear and like, do I feel like I can't take my foot off the pedal because I'm scared that I don't have enough money still? Like
Hmm.
20K in passive income a month is a ton, but do I really feel like I can stop? So,
Hmm.
so I question that a lot and I wonder about that a lot. I do feel very financially secure, but those fears in your childhood can go so deep.
For sure. Yeah.
And I know a lot of other people that are entrepreneurs that started out like me have those same struggles.
For sure.
There are things that I do that are still so silly. Like I can live such a different lifestyle now, but I still don't. And
Hmm.
at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I can live whatever lifestyle I choose to live. But
Right.
I was like, I told this to my coach the other day, and I was looking at my makeup brushes and I hadn't washed them in months. And I was like, I really need to wash these, but I was being so lazy. And I was like, this is so unhygienic. Like it's been 6 months or something. I need to wash them. And then for a moment, I was like, what if I just order new makeup brushes? Like it would be $30 on Amazon. And
Yeah.
then I was like, Rachel, that is so wasteful. Like, who do you think you are? And so I had this moment where I was like, I don't know, it was like the old Rachel versus the new Rachel and trying to figure out what was the right decision. And it was such a
Hmm.
silly thing because it's $30, but it was wasteful. And I ended up just washing them. But I felt like even having that thought made me feel guilty.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's just like even spending that $30 made me feel like that was shameful or something. So
Hmm.
it definitely still, mindset is still tough for me to this day.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate just your vulnerability there. And I think like it's good for us to hear that no matter what level of success you've achieved, because a lot of people would say you've like quote unquote made it, but you're still human and you still have the same struggles and insecurities that all of us have, right? It's like no matter what level of success you reach, there's still going to be something, especially like the childhood things that happened when we were younger, the things that we saw our parents doing growing up, like that is hard to get over those things.
It's hard. And I have
Yeah.
guilt over spending money, which I shouldn't at this point. I should celebrate it. So I'm
Yeah,
working on that.
for sure. What are you doing to work on it? I'm curious. Are you going to actually like buy something for yourself or what does that look like for you?
Well, last summer I had made some good progress and I had my first 50K course launch.
Ooh,
And
awesome.
yeah, thank you. So I was like really proud of myself. Just crazy to think that I did that. And so I told my friend, and my friend was like, what are you going to do to celebrate? And I was like, celebrate? Like, wow, what a fascinating concept. I don't think I've ever celebrated any of my achievements this entire time, like my entire life.
Yeah.
What am I going to do to celebrate? And there were these rings that I had been admiring online for years and years. And I was like, why haven't I bought those for myself? They were
Hmm.
really expensive. But I was like, well, maybe I should just do that. And I just poured over this decision for weeks and weeks because they were really expensive. And I was like, I don't know, I don't deserve this, you know? So I had this whole mindset thing going back and forth. And I rang up the order. I was about to hit checkout and I called my friend because I was like, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can hit checkout. She was like, Rachel, you deserve this. You're not the Rachel that was making $36,000 and struggling years ago.
Hmm.
You are making a ton of money now and you just made $50,000. Like you deserve to enjoy things and to
Yeah.
live this life. So I ordered the rings and it was like $2,000 or something. It was diamond rings. I had never had diamond jewelry before. And to purchase my own diamond jewelry was like such a cool thing for me. And I like opened it up and I wear them all the time now. And it just makes me so happy. And every time I wear them, it just reminds me of the things that I've achieved. And it's a beautiful reminder. So I'm really happy I made that step and I'm trying to do more things like that.
I
So
love that. One of the
thank you.
I'm treating myself finally to a Chanel purse after
Ah!
I'm like a week out from hitting this goal. I set a goal for myself. I'm like, once I hit it, I'm getting myself. So I'm like purse shopping and I'm just getting so excited. And I think I found the one. So I'm like finally treating myself to some, like the purse
Oh my
costs almost as much as our
gosh.
car, which is crazy. But I'm like showing my husband, I was like, look, these things actually appreciate over time. Like they gain like 15% in value. So
Yes, that's so
it's
cool. You'll
like,
have to share that on social or something. I want to see it.
heck yeah. What does it mean to you to make an impact?
It means just improving the lives of others in some small way. So when I first self-published Money Honey, I almost didn't do it because it was so vulnerable. My most vulnerable moment is when you put your work out there for other people to see and judge. And I know other authors and creators feel that way anytime they launch a product or whatever it is.
Oh yeah.
And, I had this moment 4 months into writing where I quit. And I was like, who am I to write a book about finance? I'm a young woman who's going to listen to me. My writing is crap. It's going to be embarrassing if I go through with this. That's what I was telling myself at that time. So I quit writing and I had no intention of ever picking it back up again. And I sat down with a friend a few weeks later and sort of confessed to her what I had been working on. She said, Rachel, you have to finish what you set out to do. You're really onto something here. And so she gave me just enough encouragement that I picked it back up and I kept working on it. And at the end of the day, I told myself, if I can just help one person, that's all I want to do. That book, Money Honey, it was just a passion project for me, something I felt compelled to do. It was not something that I ever intended to make money on. In fact, I was so afraid of losing money that I only spent like $500 to launch it. And I was convinced I wasn't going to make that money back. So I was like, well, there that goes. That's great. I'm going to lose that money. But I told myself, if I can just help one person, that is all I wanted to do. And that's how I saw making an impact back then. Like I just told myself that I lowered expectations so much. And that's all I cared about. Like impacting one person was worth it to me to finish writing that book. And it later turned into, I've impacted thousands and thousands of people. I've sold, I think, almost 50,000 copies of my books now.
Wow.
And I've now received emails from people, and the emails I get are worth more than any amount of money I will ever make. Because when I get an email or a message from somebody that says, Rachel, you have changed my life. I've paid off my student loan debt. I've paid off my credit card debt. I purchased my first rental property. Like, thank you so much. I cannot even describe the feeling of that. And it's just made everything worth it to me. The struggles, the haters, the trolls, the trials and tribulations, the tears at night in the closet when I was writing my book at 1 a.m. Like, that's what it means to me to make an impact.
Amazing. I usually ask what like your favorite book is, but I just want to give you a chance to talk about you have 2 books, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about each one and then where we can get them.
Thank you. Yeah. So Money Honey is basically my way of making this awfully complicated and dull topic of personal finance into something that is sassy and fun and simple to learn about. So it's just the basics of money management, savings, debt payoff, investing, budgeting. And then passive income, aggressive retirement talks about 28 different ways to build passive income streams and how to retire early. So it's not just about real estate investing, although there's a section about that. So both of my books can be found on Amazon in ebook, audiobook, and paperback.
Cool. So I listened to the second one and it's just awesome. Like all the different creative ideas in there. I was like, ooh, I never thought about doing that. Like how cool.
Thank you.
Where can we connect with you?
I'm on IG at Money Honey Rachel. And what I would love to do for your listeners, Rachel, is if anyone wants to download my passive income starter kit, I will give that for free. Awesome. So that can be found at moneyhoneyrachel.com/passive income.
Cool. Well, Rachel, thank you so much for being here. This was awesome.
Thank you for having me.